it's meeting a lot of needs that are out there in terms of overall Irish food and drink challenges. Okay, we know that we need to be more focused on sustainable nutrition, and we know that is going to become a much more popular phrase with the public over the next decade. And that even though right now they may not understand that language, the rate of awareness of carbon, the rate of awareness of key production systems that are driving carbon, and the awareness as well that I need to get that balanced with a better nutritional profile. It's coming, and it's here, and it's coming fast. And Seaweed can play a big role.
And the consumers care about these about carbon, or is it mainly driven by the retailers or the? So where is that demand coming from to change the systems? Actually, maybe Lieneke can lead with that. Actually.
That's a very good question. Consumers. The real honest answer is some consumers say they care about emissions, sustainability, etc., but very few consumers actually pay for that or buy the products that represent that. And that is one of the challenges. And we will talk about that more here in this call, and also later today in the food deep dive, because this is something that we all need to address together.
But great, we've got a great lineup here as well, final lineup of the day, and not to be missed. So it would be great if we could do a round of intros. I think John and Lieneke would be fantastic if you guys could explain your roles a bit in your various organizations and how Seaweed ties into all of that.
You start in your one. So my name is Lieneke, for the ones that are non-Dutch and don't know how to pronounce that. Would not be the first. I have the honor of being able to talk about the market side in the Seaweed Company. So I'm taking care of the commercial side towards the food market. And I'm happy because who doesn't like to talk about food all day? I do. I also like to eat it, but I also like to talk about it. And I'm one of these people that I grew up in a coastal area, not in Ireland, in Zeeland, in the Netherlands. And saying what Joost mentioned before already, I grew up being afraid to slip on the beach on the seaweed that was laying there, and I really didn't like it. We would eat the shellfish from the dikes, as we call them in the Netherlands, but the seaweed we would just leave it there. So a whole new world opened when I met Joost and the other colleagues when I joined a few years ago. And since then, I really fell in love with seaweed. I fell in love with eating seaweed, talking about it. And I think we can, make a great talk together here. So I hand it over to John.
Thanks very much. So my name is John Murray. I work with Bord Bia, which is the Irish Food Board. And the Irish Food Board's role is to market and promote Irish food abroad in export markets, and to work with client companies to meet their ambitions for growth in those markets. And we do that in a couple of ways. We obviously run promotion and awareness of Irish food, but we also look at trying to find opportunities with export customers for Irish companies. We try and drive awareness of insight and innovation that can create opportunity, particularly for value-added opportunities, and trying to move on the profile of Irish food and drink into higher value areas on it. My own background actually is in ingredients. I have quite a bit of experience actually in more traditional burgers, so this will be an interesting burger experience for me on it, because I've come from a meat background and from a dairy background.
Seaweed? What's the verdict?
What's the dairy? I'm actually super excited about this because what I've seen so far, and it is very, very impressive what's been put together by the guys here in the Seaweed Company. It's meeting a lot of needs that are out there in terms of overall Irish food and drink challenges. Okay, we know that we need to be more focused on sustainable nutrition, and we know that is going to become a much more popular phrase with the public over the next decade. And that even though right now they may not understand that language, the rate of awareness of carbon, the rate of awareness of key production systems that are driving carbon, and the awareness as well that I need to get that balanced with a better nutritional profile. It's coming, and it's here, and it's coming fast. And Seaweed can play a big role.
And the consumers care about these about carbon, or is it mainly driven by the retailers or the? So where is that demand coming from to change the systems? Actually, maybe Lieneke could answer that.
That's a very good question. Consumers. The real honest answer is some consumers say they care about emissions, sustainability, etc., but very few consumers actually pay for that or buy the products that represent that. And that is one of the challenges. And we will talk about that more here in this call and also later today in the food deep dive, because this is something that we all need to address together.
Can I maybe just exactly that, the say-do dilemma is a very real dilemma. You know, what people will say they will do and how they will actually respond to that. But the one thing that we know to be very, very true is that consumers put their trust in brands, and they put their trust in retail brands and food service brands. And the expectation is that I don't fully understand it, but I expect them to fully understand it, and I expect them to do the right thing.
Yeah, and then there is something I would like to add to that, because I really believe that this can be done by the food brands, the retailers who make these steps indeed with consumers that trust their products and maybe don't even realize what they're eating and buying. And they haven't been mentioned here, but there's two people here in the audience from the Kerry Group in Belgium who are not only investing in our company, but who were brave enough to be the first listing products with our sea meat in the supermarkets, selling it to their wholesale restaurant group. And I would really like to say a thank you to them, because it's brave companies like them, brave people in those companies like Philip and Frederik over here, who really help making this industry succeed. Anything to add there, Joost?
Now, I think that's you hit the nail on its head. Is it an English expression? At least in Dutch it is. It is. We're talking a lot about what should be done and what we have, what's the future look like, and we need to cooperate. But it's really what you say. It's these companies, and I can say from here, thank you. Frey, where are you? Thank you.
Deserves an applause, I think.
Yeah. Because just imagine you're a retailer, you have a brand, and you trust that seaweed is the future. That's what we need. That's exactly the spirit we need in action, how it materializes. This is how behavior looks like. Retailers, food service, restaurants that dare to take it. And if you have any question about it, please go to these two gentlemen and ask them what were the considerations, what were the risks they saw, and why did they still do it and believe it? Because that's what we can, I think, in all the previous talks, this is theory into practice. So that's the last part. But thanks.
So we mentioned a fair few pain points already in food systems, but I was wondering if you could maybe elaborate a little bit more on the different pain points that you are seeing and how you'd like to see them solved in industry.
Yeah, the pain points, still the main one is the consumer awareness, the consumer familiarity with seaweed. And you will all taste it later, and I think the proof is in the pudding, as I think is a proper English expression. Yeah. So I don't dare to say too much, because you need to taste it. But afterwards, I'm pretty sure you're like, wow, everybody should taste this. It's good. And that also shows it's not only possible, it's a no-brainer, but the fact that people need to taste it and need to hear it, and that's a challenge. And I believe that can work if everybody, I thought my responsibility here is heading the commercial part, but I cannot do it alone. We have a team, but I really believe in this ripple effect, the butterfly effect, as it's been called. And all the people here have connections, have restaurants where they eat, have perhaps connections in a retail chain or a catering company, have friends who have food podcast, vlogs, whoever. And I believe that all of us together, and don't call names, but somebody on the left side, or for you guys on the right indeed, but all of you guys can help with that. And I hope that after lunch, you all believe this is something that's possible and that we can do that together, not just us here on the table.
Yeah, no, I would echo a lot of that. I mean, it's always challenging to bring new ingredients and new solutions to the table. And there's a time piece when you get acceptance but you need to do that through championing. You need people to advocate for you. You need brave people to lead, and then others will follow. And generally, if you can hit the key consumer elements that are important to the consumer, you'll find traction over time. And probably what would excite me a little bit more about Seaweed, actually, that I didn't mention at the time, is the number one factor for a consumer, no matter wherever way we go, it's always taste. And taste has been one of the biggest inhibitors of new ingredients coming into the space in the past. So if you can deliver taste on top of USPs around nutrition and around sustainability, then you're ticking 4 or 3 of the top 4 requirements for a consumer to make that step forward in terms of purchase.
Can I add something more on that, or
please.
Should we move to the next question? Yeah, to add to that, taste, and there is a trend in health. More and more people care about health. So while the companies have a need to change for sustainability reasons, on scope 3 emissions or water usage, you name it, where seaweed is one of the things they need to start using for that, the consumers will start moving because of health reasons. And a trend that I see already there and getting stronger is also people wanting to eat natural food, not all the processed, I can't say fake food because we eat it and you won't die immediately for it, but I personally believe that it's good if it's natural. And this seaweed, I mean, you'll see the processing line here in Downings, in Donegal for the seaweed. It's just right, it's pure seaweed, super healthy. So I really hope that will also help convince the customers.
Great answers. I'm curious about similarities with other product categories and biomass types, John. I don't know if you see similarities between seaweed and another food product, like maybe kale, for example. And also, what exactly is an advocacy piece? What does that look like? Is it a chef taking seaweed and integrating it with a great brand and a great sort of distribution? Or is it is it everything? A bit of government, a bit of policy pieces? Where should it come from? And can you give me an example of a similar type of approach?
Look, I mean, there's been over maybe the last 10, 15 years, there's been a couple of different attempts at this in different places. Now, I'm talking about the hybrid nature of trying to incorporate something, particularly with red meat. And obviously we've had a series of different vegetables that have been big. This beetroot was a big thing around maybe 12 years ago. And then, to be fair, I think that maybe it was just a little bit ahead of its time in coming there. Mushrooms have been a big part now, and we see an opportunity, and we see active business in that place as well. Each of them brings their own opportunities and challenges. Sometimes it's texture, sometimes it's just the fact that the flavor profile of it doesn't work very well. And so it is, it is about trying to, marry all of the USPs together and to try and get something that synergizes well on it. In terms of the advocacy piece, it is about ticking all those boxes. So as Lieneke mentioned there, it's not just about having an amazing chef who's going out there and talking on social media about how great your product is, but it's actually about trying to mobilize a network. So if you can get nutritionists to come in and talk about the value of it, if you can get people who are sustainably orientated to come in and talk about it as well, you're trying to create a little bit more than just a singular chef narrative on that. You need to be choiceful as well about the customers that you work with at the early stages. Can they help you amplify? Can they help you protect your brand? Your brand is critical in the first couple of years in terms of how it emerges and what it says to its audience and to those end consumers for the first couple of years. That's critical. If you waver too much on that, you don't get it back. So you need to be really careful about who you work with, and the purpose you work with them, and the pace at which you take it forward, I suppose. That'd be kind of my key comments on it. I think you can build advocacy across the industry as well. I mean, I do think organic, and I know we've got somebody from the organic group here as well. Like we talked a minute ago about, how can you build more advocacy for aquaculture? Look at what's happened with organic in the last 3 years. You know what I mean? Singularly by moving a political front and a push on that, you can get a great mass of energy across all agencies behind that. And I think actually there's an opportunity for that here too.
No, I think it's an interesting thing. If you want to create advocacy there, is it maybe not only pushing seaweed, for instance. It's more like pushing the awareness on, for instance, meat products with less carbon emissions, and then offer the choice with this one is with seaweed, that one is with maybe other ingredients. I mean, we never said that seaweed will be the solution for everything. It's a part. It's to contribute to a bigger part, but it can play an important role, because the beauty of seaweed is it brings also a nice story. Let's say if you would use certain beans to replace meat, that's nice, but try to tell a nice story about a bean. But then you have seaweed with the mermen and mermaids that go in the water and that harvest it, and how it deacidifies the ocean and how it creates a habitat. Then it's also it's a broader story. So we think that seaweed can play a very important role in getting the story over. And then I think the whole portfolio of alternatives and meat replacement is much broader than seaweed alone.
On the topic of meat replacements, friends and colleagues have made this comment, and we talked about it yesterday, Joost. Are we going to animate more people to eat beef if we integrate seaweed into burgers? Is this going to have a negative effect by increasing that aspect, increasing GHG emissions? Or is this a stepping stone that's going to just...
Lieneke can't wait to answer that.
I can't wait. No, I can't wait, because this is such a good question. And we get the question a lot, and I'm really happy to get it here on stage, because then all the people know how to answer it. If their friends, when they are selling our seaweed, say it as well. It is not. Why not? It's the people who are really conscious and don't eat meat. They won't suddenly start eating meat if there is seaweed in their meat. It's still a meat product. But 95% of the people are meat eaters. The whole plant-based segments, and perhaps there's people here that are vegan, vegetarian, fully applaud them. I'm happy that there's also, by the way, also in the Colruyt supermarkets, also vegan burgers with seaweed. But the majority of people, I can't say this enough, is eating meat and is not changing that quickly. If we look at 50 years ahead, perhaps that's different. But for the foreseeable future, this is not changing quickly. So there needs to be a way in between. And then anything helping meat eaters eat less meat is stronger than to try to convince them to not eat meat. So I hope this answers the question. I'm really not afraid, because I live in a city, I live in Amsterdam. I have a lot of friends who eat plant-based or vegetarian at least. They will not change that.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I think you do need two types of solutions. I always take the analogy with if I run upstairs, or I'm in my room and I see the water dripping through the ceiling, and then I run up and I realize that the bathtub is flowing over. I need to do two things. First, I need to close the tap, but I also need to mop the floor. And this is what Lieneke is saying rightly, is we are facilitating the transition towards less meat, towards the acceptance of eating less meat while enjoying meat, towards the awareness of that. That is, I would say, mopping the floor, at least, immediately, today. If we would have hamburgers on the menu right now, we have them with less impact. At the same time, we need forces on a much different level if it goes about closing the tap. I mean, that will be for the EU, if we put carbon tax on meat and things like that. I don't think at the Seaweed Company or anyone in this room can influence that. Maybe Felix, but apart from him, no one else. So we need that also as a joint approach. But that's how we look at it.
Great answer. Thank you very much. I'm sure they'll be listening to that one.
Mop the floor.
Yeah. Distribution. My biggest problem with all this stuff is that I can't get a seaweed burger at home in the UK. Like, I just don't see them. And I guess that's to do with we're waiting for scale, but it's the same with, how do you guys tackle that? What's the process like with distribution?
Well, distribution, as in the logistic part of it, is not an issue. If you want to buy it in your English supermarket or restaurant, perhaps helping by asking that and getting also from the bottom up the question, hey, we want to have this product. Can you help us? Because I see it in other countries. that could be a way. Or if you have connections, because the product is there, we can sell things. It's also about connections and getting it there.
And then I think for John, I have a question, because I think a year ago, Bord Bia played a very important role in getting us to the first introduction. So it is also retailers or availability distribution points listen to different people. I mean, we are commercial. If you send Lieneke and myself out to a client, we will talk all day until the people say, I take it, because otherwise they never stop talking. That might not be always as effective. But what Bord Bia did, they did tests. They did tests with our seaweed, and they made blends. And then they said, they recommended to meat processors, more or less. Whatever. You'll twitch the story. It could have been you. But I think those kind of angles also work. John, even if it wasn't you.
No, absolutely. And I would agree to a certain extent. I think BIM did the actual testing work, but we helped with some introductions. Actually, that is a really important point about distribution. We have a phenomenal food industry in Ireland. We are exporting to over 150 countries. We are working with some of the best retailers, the best food service chains, the best distributors across the world. And we've got phenomenal companies that are doing it. Working with and through those companies can accelerate your route to market significantly and position you in the best places that you want to be, because ultimately you're going to be scaling for quite some time. It's going to take quite a long time before you're going to be able to bring this everywhere you want it to bring. So working through some of these companies, and I would also say, particularly the Irish beef industry, is very keen to innovate, very keen to find new solutions to meet the needs of these customers that they've established and been working with for the last 30, 40 years. So they're trying to respond. They need help. This is a great opportunity to collaborate and work together.
Couple of more minutes for questions.
Yeah, I think let's open the floor to questions. Any questions from you guys on the floor? How do you see Bord Bia taking a leadership position in marketing and supporting the development of the seaweed industry in Ireland?
Absolutely. If there's something happening here, we want to be part of it, and we want to be feeding into it. And we work hand in hand with BIM, and the BIM are the development agency from a seafood agriculture and a seafood point of view, and we're the marketing element of that. So our biggest role, I think, early on is about insight and about market opportunity and supporting in that sense, because often, and Lieneke is very acutely aware of this, yes, you have a great proposition. You always have to make sure that you've got the customer pull and that the customer demand is there and you're responding to that customer demand, and there's always things going on that changes the customer demand. So we'd be happily get involved in that. Other elements that we do actually that are relevant as well is we do operate a quality and a sustainability assurance element for the Irish industry as well. And it's been incredibly helpful in securing a lot of long-term customer interest in the Irish market, because they understand that we put great verification behind everything we do as best as possible as well. And I think that's something that we would definitely want to explore as well.
Would it become time that, for instance, products need to show their carbon footprint on their product? Like we all know, maybe Oatly, the oat milk company, they put it there. Would it help if on meat products or other products will be kind of?
It's already happening. I mean, if you go to Sainsbury's in the UK now, they're already showcasing a range of products, of beef products that are 25% reduced in their carbon. That's the start of it. We see lots of discussions in France about actually moving on their labelling to actually move to a sustainable nutrition scoring rather than the Nutri-Score element of it. It's going to come. There's no doubt that it's going to come, and it's going to come probably within the next decade.
Super.
There's a question at the back. What percentage does seaweed have in the food products you make? What benefits does the seaweed have for the planet?
A lot of good questions in one question.
Can you summarize?
So did everybody hear that question? So how much percentage seaweed is in those beef products, the meat products? In the example that you are going to taste, I believe it's 25%. But the word, I believe, already shows it's not a one answer. But we see the commercial examples so far are either 20 or 25%, which is significant. I mean, imagine that all Burger King or McDonald's hamburgers contain 20 or 25% seaweed. This is massive. We're not there yet. Maybe tomorrow. Why is it in there, and what's the benefits other than the CO2 water reduction, land use reduction. It's a combination. Seaweed contains fibers, antioxidants, it contains some proteins, but also the healthy proteins, nutrients, iodine. Many Europeans have iodine deficiency. So all kind of reasons why it's a healthy addition. And you also mentioned, is it a binding agent? It is also a little bit of a binding agent. So, the feedback we get from chefs, from the meat companies, is that it helps in not needing to add too much other binding additives. So it's a whole bunch of things.
Yep. Any other questions from the floor before we round up? No? Great. I think we can round it up. Yeah, thank you so much for this service.
Yeah. Big applause for Peter.
It is.